Welcome to the Vault of Fire. Collector's Archive. Welcome to the Collector's Archive. I am the Vault Keeper, engaging human interface.
Let's get into it. Good evening, John. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm splendid. Thank you very much for asking. First of all, thank you for agreeing to come on the Collector's Archive and have a chat with us. Got your questions through, so you've done your homework. We'll make us way through them and that lot, and we'll just see where it goes. But if you want, for the first off, do you want to just take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and not that people would need telling, but what your main collecting focus is at the moment.
Yeah, of course. So my name's John, but I go by BordersDude on the socials. I live in a little town in Scotland called Galashiels. We're on the border, so we're closest to England, I guess, in many of the towns. Our closest English town is the seaside town of Berwick. We're also close to Carlisle, unfortunately. We're at that sort of side there. So I'm nearest Edinburgh's my sort of biggest. Edinburgh is the biggest Scottish city. I'm the best city in my opinion. Sorry, Jamie. I know he loves Glasgow. But yeah, I was born in Edinburgh, so I think that's why I've got that affinity to it. But I was, raised in Galashiels, and I've been here all my life. In terms of, collecting, that really sort of started up properly, sort of around 2009, 2010 time, when I really started getting back into the collecting of Transformers on a full-time basis, I suppose would be the word.
Yeah. Cool. And obviously, as we can see, the main focus then is Transformers, yeah?
Yeah, so the main focus is definitely Transformers, specifically the Generations line. I've recycled the majority of the characters from previous generations to the more recent sort of War for Cybertron trilogy. Since they've done that mini reboot in terms of scale and design, I felt that this will be my last sort of go-round in terms of recycling the official stuff anyway, because it's just got to the point, how many times can you have an Optimus Prime? And it gets a little bit better. I still have my Classics Optimus Prime because I still think that's one of the best ones out there, regardless of the arm kibble. But aside from that, the side Transformer focus is, of course, Ultra Magnus, which you can kind of see here. He's my favourite character.
Yeah.
And as you may know, I have one specific rule with Ultra Magnus. Well, two. The rule I have is Ultra Magnus has no white primes. It's only based on Ultra Magnus, how he first appeared in the Generation 1 cartoon and the G1 comics. That's just me. I know a lot of people like the white primes. And the second one is, I don't like Minimus Ambus. Now, I do play on that a little bit. I'm not. You may see a YouTube short or two where I dislike it, but if that's your thing, you crack on, you do you. But for me, I don't see, the fun in the character. Now, to be fair, I'm looking at it from a completely outsider perspective because I didn't really read the comics. I've dabbled in them. I got the majority of that revisionist set from Hatchet paperbacks, still covered in cellophane. And they'll probably be there forevermore because nobody wants to buy them. So that's for you. And in my ignorance, IDW seems to come across a bit like Mills and Boon for Transformers. and that's I know I've heard how good the Sins of the Wreckers are and all that, but it's a pure ignorance on my part. I'm sure there's much more to it than just that, but that's how I see it. Yeah. And sorry if I've offended you there. It's not to be offensive. It's just how I see it.
Right. Yeah. I think I've commented on one or two of your posts actually, where I've actually put myself, no to Minimus Ambus. I've had the Transformers comics since day one. I went all through the UK Marvel G1 stuff. I did the Dreamwave stuff. I really enjoyed the Dreamwave stuff, and it was such a shame that happened to them. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I didn't enjoy the early IDW stuff. You know, when they were doing like Infiltration, Escalation, things like that. But then, like I say, towards the back end, it was just like, no. So I'm going to swear, but I'm just saying, no, fuck off. I just like it. It just wasn't. Might end up having to cut that anyway, but
Yeah, I know.
but yeah, but the Ultra Magnus thing, yeah, I'm like you. I like Ultra Magnus. The characterization that you got in the Marvel comics and in the movie, I liked Magnus in the movie because it was like, I just like that idea of this strong character who's a very, well, more than competent warrior who was just so reluctant to just take the leading role, you know, that was more comfortable, you know, being the follower, that, you know, given different circumstances, could have been quite a good and competent leader.
Yeah.
You know, but it was just that he happened to come into leadership at the wrong time. You know, so I mean, I don't know if that makes sense or if you agree with that, but that's just kind of how I saw it at the time, you know, when I saw the movie.
So what I found is there's a big difference between how he was portrayed in the movie and the cartoon series that followed. It was more a leader role in the cartoon. Rodimus, I don't know whether it was just, you know, it was poor toy sales or that, but they seem to push him in the background for a lot of episodes, and Magnus would take centre stage. Where it's maybe, again, it's probably just toy sales, but you've seen more Spotlight where Magnus would always be the sort of the voice of reason for Rodimus as well. He'd always come up. And they made, apart from like the weirdly written Fight or Flee episode where Rodimus was just a bit of a dick,
right?
All throughout, you know, blows up Sandstorm's planet and just tells him not to get all mushy. It's like, just, you know, little things like that. But I think as well in the UK, it was always sort of positioned, I guess, to avoid spoilers for the movie, that Ultra Magnus and Galvatron were the new leaders.
Yeah.
Whether that was on purpose or they didn't know at the time because of the, you know, the difference in, you know, America and the US, little things like that. But what I've read up sort of more recently, whether it's true or not, it's just one of these urban myths, that Ultra Magnus was going to be the new form of Optimus Prime in one of the scripts.
Right.
And I suppose when you look at the toy, you can see where the writers were going, or Hasbro was going, because it makes sense looking at the G1 version of the toy with the white Prime cab.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I like that, to be honest, because you'd still be losing Optimus Prime as you know him, and you'd be getting this other version that would be a bit different. And then I guess when we've seen it in Beast Wars with Optimus Primal, you know, he changed 3 times. But that seemed more acceptable at the time. Maybe because I was a bit older. I don't know.
I understand what you mean. I mean, it sounds plausible because maybe that idea is then what morphed into Power Master Optimus Prime. Okay, so Ultra Magnus, I can see, like, you know, there's a collecting focus on that and the Transformer thing. But what would you say, John, is what shapes you're collecting now? You know, what's the motivations behind it, and do you have any specific? Is there like an end game, or is there a specific goal to your collecting? Yeah,
so I never used to be a stickler for scale when it came to Transformers. Normally, I'm still not that much of a die-hard scale. It has to match, because look at that. Hey, Brutus there. He's not gonna. I keep forgetting it's reversed. You know, he's not going to scale with the Generation stuff, but I think he looks the best out of all the sort of third-party Brutuses that we've had. But generally, it's just try and get as many of the Generation 1 characters up to Season 3 of the Generation 1 cartoon, and a little bit here and there. And that's pretty much it for, you know, the Generations line. And once I'm done there, I don't know what I'll do.
Right.
I have, this year in particular, what I've been trying to do is not be so much Generation 1 focused, and it's not going that well.
Right.
If I have to be honest. But I've picked up a few characters outside of it, such as the Legacy Hotshot.
Right.
Armada Starscream. Sorry, something just popped up on my screen. Go away. I picked up the Mech Fan Toys Heart of Steel Bumblebee. A few other figures, and Russ has got me into collecting Doctor Wu, but again, that's fallen into the Generation 1 side of things, more or less.
Yeah.
But once that's done, I've got other side hobbies that I collect, such as Marvel Legends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just particularly the Spider-Man 90s cartoon, but we'll probably get to that. So
That's coming. Is that? Yeah.
I'll not segue into that. And I've almost got. I just need one more figure in that to complete the James Bond Jr. collection, and I've got it on my watch list for ages. I've just not pulled the trigger.
Right.
And it's not like it's expensive either. It's like once I've done it, I'm like, oh, well.
Yeah, that's that.
But I will, because I want to do a video on that down the line at some stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ultimate goal, I guess, to answer the question, is to get as many, up to season 3 cast of characters, and we're pretty much there. We need a Dinobot Swoop. I don't even know who we're missing. I've got a Punch Counter Punch. We've got the majority of the Headmasters. I think it's nearly there, and then just cherry pick other things. And
so, are you mix and matching lines, or are you trying to keep them specifically to one particular line?
So I'll mix and match the generations with the Studio Series 86 stuff.
Yeah.
I have dabbled in the Studio Series Bumblebee line, because that's really good. I've got the War for Cybertron Prime and Bumblebee, because they're one of my favourite video games. And the sequel for Cybertron was really good.
Right.
So they're really good characters, and they'll have their own sort of display. But really, the main goal is just keep them.
So is it more that you're actually looking for? Are you looking more for just having the character rather than the characters being all from the same line, so they fit in together?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't see it there. Again, I'm going the wrong way, but we've got the Thrilling 30 Sandstorm sticking out like a sore thumb. It's one of my favourite figures. There.
Yeah.
But I really want him to get an update.
Right.
So he fits in a bit more, because he's a bit out of place there,
Yeah.
Sticks out like a sore thumb. But yeah,
I think that's the thing at the moment. I think for if you're not doing G1, or if you're not doing like myself Masterpiece, then I suppose at the moment it's a bit of a Frankenstein's collection, isn't it? Because you've just got to try and cobble together and mix and match where you can to flesh out your collection, But hopefully there will, Hasbro will catch up and fill those gaps, and so you can get some, So some of us like myself who like uniformity, all have them looking nice and matching and things. That's great. Is that so? I mean, you might have touched on this in the answer that you just gave us there, but I'll just go over it again. So, is there anything specifically new in your collection at the moment? And also, is there something that's coming up on your radar? Things like, have you got any current orders in, or is some pre-orders? And then, just moving further past that, then, is there something that you'd like that's not yet been made available, or something that you'd like to see made available, so then you can incorporate it into your collection?
Yeah, so the most current pickup was Studio Series 86 Snarl. It's always been my favourite Dinobot, and I was hoping they would have done him a bit quicker than they did, but he was worth the wait.
Yeah.
In terms of pickups, because it'll be past by the time this comes out, but TF Nation's coming up, so I'm trying to sort of curb my spending until then. Try.
Yeah. We can try.
Yeah. So there's stuff I haven't picked up yet, such as Legacy Beachcomber. I don't even know if he's out in the UK, and at least with Smiths or anything like that this time. The Armada Optimus Prime. It's always been a figure I really like. I even have the Power Links repaint, which was the original sort of red and grey version of it. But the Armada Megatron, I'll be looking for what I'd really like Hasbro to do, and I don't think they will. I think they'll release them in normal colours. But since they're re-releasing the 86 figures in the G1 form, they've probably got to do a Magnus, and they probably won't do them in the Delta Magnus movie preview colours. That's wishful thinking.
Right.
But yeah, it's even third-party stuff like the Mastermind Creations. Protectobots. Lost my train of thought there. You know, I've got the Streetwise, I've got the First Aid. I think Blades is next.
Right.
And he's sort of toss up between Blades and First Aid as my favourite Protectobot.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for them really to match the Bruticus.
Yeah.
Back there, but yeah. So there's always more, you know, on the horizon. That's the one thing, be it official or third party.
Yeah.
And again, sort of going down that Doctor Wu rabbit hole and trying to get the older releases at a reasonable price. It would be an interesting challenge, but so much
good stuff. Moving on from, you know, the things that you've got in and what's new and things like that. I couldn't think of a term for this next question, so I'm as I've noted it down, I'm just going to say this won't be on your list that I sent you. So there's a couple of surprise ones I've snuck in, but you know, this is separate to a question that I am going to go ask. But is there a particular figure at the moment that you're digging on at the moment that like you keep looking at and you keep picking up and having a little mess about with and that?
Oh yeah, definitely. At the moment, it is the Legacy Pribble.
Right.
It came out, the animated, you know, motorbike version. That's. I just love how posable it is. And I've took some photos of that there just to, and they'll be up on my Instagram channel. We'll plugs later. You know, it's just brilliant what you can get out of the figure, and a lot of the animated diehards didn't like it, just like they didn't like the Bulkhead.
Right.
That came out, you know, there was a lot of backlash there, but I think it's really good. You know, it's a bike former, so it's not something we get a lot of when it comes to Transformers. I think the last one we got was probably Wreck-Gar. And the other one, RC, that they did last year. But it's just a really nice figure. It's a nice update. Yes, it's been G1ified.
Right.
As they sort of call it, but yeah, it's a figure you can pick up, you can transform, and it looks as it should.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
If I could take figures into work, it'd probably be the one I would take in.
Right.
At the moment.
So have it on your desk there, the side of you. Yeah. So that one aside, then, this is the one that I changed the wording of because this is the rescue item. So total hypothetical. There's a disaster. You can run back in the house and save one Transformer, or one. Don't have to be a Transformer, but you can go back in and save one thing. What is it you're gonna go save?
Well, I mean, aside from the wife, kids, and cats, of course. Of course.
Oh, you know, like Bullseye, they're safe. You don't have to worry about them. So
you've got £50 in my back pocket.
Yeah, that's the one.
It would have to be. There is MP Ultra Magnus.
Right.
The reason for that is my first ever convention was the very last auto assembly.
Right.
I've mentioned this multiple times on my channel, and that was the item that I had to get. And when I got into that trader hall, I was literally going from each person.
Yeah.
Have you got it? So, no. Now at this point, it hadn't been reissued.
Right.
It was, the first one had been and gone, and I thought, well, can't see it on eBay. Chances are I'll get it there. So I got to the trader that had one, and it was a trading company called Max and Me Toys.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually always there. They're more sort of specialise in third-party stuff, but I got hold of the right guy, because if you've ever been to TFN, they've always got people helping them, and you ask the wrong person 9 times out of 10, and they're like, and shouts the guy over, digs one out from under the stall, box is bashed, but I didn't care, grabbed it, overpaid about 170, 180 quid. And then This was out at the bar, which they had a Swerves bar at the time,
Right.
and with the group of people I was with a good friend who came with me, as well as other people that were mostly on Twitter, but they don't seem to come to the conventions anymore. Just, yeah, it happens, doesn't it? You know, people just sort of grow out of it. And we reenacted the scene from Carnage in C minor, where Ultra Magnus is massive and smashes two Constructicons together. So it just has that, you know, more than just it's a great Ultra Magnus. It's got so much emotional attachment to me.
Yes.
First figure at my first convention and has so many memories, aside from, you know, the Carnage in C minor recreation that we drunkenly made at the time.
Yeah. No, it's a good figure. I did have it, but like I say, when X-Transbots bought their version out, I sold it on and I went with that one. I also had the Delta Magnus as well. I love that colour scheme, and I hope that X-Transbots do a Delta Magnus colour variation. You know, that will be one. But I'm keeping my eye on fans' toys and their Ultra Magnus.
Definitely.
From the renders and that we've seen at the moment of it, I'll be interested to see how they're going to do the articulation. I suspect there may be some similarities to the New Age Ultra Magnus. I think there might be some similarities there, the way that it transforms and it makes up. But just going by the renders alone, I'm not sure. I get the impression that some of the articulation may be compromised.
Probably, yeah.
But it depends. I'm sure they'll figure a way around it. But I like that it's gone back to that kind of that shell. You know, like the G1 toy. It's a shell around a cab, kind of thing. You know, but we'll see what they do with that. So this goes back to them because you briefly mentioned it. You mentioned the Marvel Legends thing, and it's like, you know, other interests that are outside this core, you know, your core collecting focus. Yeah.
So as mentioned, Marvel Legends I do collect now. Specifically, it's because I just don't have the space to, you know, branch out from one sort of set area and other figures. Right. I just don't. You know, this back wall here is all Transformers in the bedroom because I'm not allowed them in the living room. And I don't blame her. To be fair, you don't. Yeah, you need your own space, you know, away from the collection.
I completely agree.
You need that. It's not that I hide it. You know, I'll quite happily. You know, you see that meme where the guy showing someone something. You know, showing my friends my toys. The Doctor Who meme, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I quite happily drag them up. They know I do this. They know, you know, I do YouTube videos, Instagram. You know, I don't hide it. So when it comes to other lines, you know, the really big one is Marvel Legends, but it all started with the Toy Biz package inspired Spider-Man 90s retro line. Right. Easy for me to say. So I stick to that and other Marvel Legends figures that would appear in the cartoon, that would fit in that collection. So like Iron Man, War Machine, you know, you've got Doctor Strange. I've still to pick up that one.
Right.
But I sort of dabble with the Masters of the Universe Revelations figures. I've got a few of them. I've got the much coveted New Adventures He-Man figure that everybody hated but everybody wants.
Right.
But that's, and you know, I touch on things like the Ramen toy Centurions. I had to get Centurions.
Yeah.
You know, we needed those modern versions, and I'll see with the weapon systems. That'll be an interesting one. I don't have any mask stuff, so they're doing their own version. But again, it's where do I display it? And the other thing, my favourite Batman film, and I always watch it during Christmas time, is Batman Returns. So I've got the Keaton Mobile, I've got the Batman. These are from the new Flash movie.
Right.
I've also got still on card from the Kenner Batman Returns series, a quick change Bruce Wayne that I had to import.
Right.
because everybody's trying to sell it for stupid prices in the UK,
Right.
£100 to £150.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, if you took out the box, it's a crap toy. It is crap, but having it on card's great.
Yeah.
I've got the Catwoman and the Penguin henchman, you know, the two penguins with the rocket packs strapped to them.
Yeah.
And I just need to get a penguin figure from that line, and that'll do. I'm not a completionist, easy for me to say, with, you know, the other lines that I am collecting, because space, money, and Transformers, first love.
Yeah. No, it sounds a good way to keep it. And I can't knock your logic on that.
The Collector's Art Hack will return after these messages.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend. From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges. You didn't invite me, so I crashed! From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do. While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction. My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham! You missed. Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
We now return to the Collector's Art Hack.
So, John, if we take it back, then let's go back to when we were kids and that.
Yep.
What it might be the usual stuff. I mean, so far it has been. But what are the things that you're watching as a kid? Then what cartoons are you doing? Comics, TV shows, movies, music. What's going off for you as a kid? Back at that time.
Yeah, so I was born in '83, so I was sort of, I guess, in between the '80s and '90s. But you'll probably find this as well. There wasn't such things as like simultaneous releases with cartoons. Back then, it was usually a couple of years after that it would hit the UK. So now apparently, and I can't remember this, I remember having the figures, but when I was a kid, I was a big Masters of the Universe fan.
Right.
And I had the VHS that had Cat and the Spider and the Littlest Giant on it. And I would watch them, and it got to the point I'd watched them that much I had nightmare. And I didn't watch He-Man for ages again after that.
Right.
So that, I'm guessing it's true. Why would my parents, lie about something like that?
Yeah.
So with that, that's Master Universe. Yeah, it was there, but for me, the sort of big hitters were Transformers.
Right.
of course, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might have guessed.
Well, one or two things stood out.
Thundercats. Thundercats was a real biggie.
Yeah.
I must have watched Thundercats Ho the movie
Right.
that we got in the UK, as well as it being on CBBC, I think it was, or at least on BBC.
Yeah. The Broom Cupboard.
Yeah, it would have been the Broom Cupboard, yeah, with Philip Schofield. Oh dear.
Who?
Oh dear. Cut.
Yeah.
Andy Peters.
Yeah. Andy Crane. Andy Crane. Andy Crane.
Bad influence, that's another thing. So Thundercats was a biggie. I had the Thunder Tank. What really bugged me with that toy as a child, you couldn't have Panthro driving it. It had to be Lionel.
Right. But I did not know that.
Yeah, because the way Panthro was moulded.
Right.
Although with some force you could fit him in there, he was just a bugger to get back out. The Thundercats, and Rudy will take the piss out of me for this one because I'm always going on about it. Visionaries.
Right. Okay.
I thought this was a cartoon, and my childhood friend, did too. That ran for about 60 episodes, but it was only 13.
Right.
But I loved the Visionaries, and still do to this day. I still think it's a wonderfully written cartoon. You could tell it was getting. By the last episode, they were just like, "We'll just do what we want." And
right.
It didn't do well. Was the general consensus. They say the cost of the holograms was what really knocked the toy line, but I think in the States it just didn't do well. To the point where I can remember, every weekend I was getting a Visionary figure out of pound stretchers.
Right.
Or, they were all there, and, they would have been cheap, I guess, because otherwise my mum probably wouldn't have got me, one every weekend. And, I had the vehicles, I had the Capture Chariot, and I can't remember, Skyclaw, Ektar's vehicle, can't remember what the hell that's called. Never had the Dagger Assault, which was the big Darkling Lord's vehicle, and that seems to be rare as horse crap these days.
Right.
In terms of picking that up, you're going into the 500 if you want it complete. Right. Mainly due to the fact you could only get, with the vehicles you could only get certain figures with that. So, and then of course the real one that I remember, and this will sort of play into Christmas toy memories that we'll get to down the line, is the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, because it was Hero.
Yeah.
And still is, damn it, and still is. That was one of the big kids, shows. We had the real Ghostbusters, and I had a lot of that stuff at Christmas time as well, because that was the thing. But there's another show that I'll get to when we go to like the sort of last childhood craze.
Yeah.
When we get to that, but those were the big sort of the cartoons I would watch.
Right.
When I went to, and I can't go into why. He was really spoiled on this video. We can do it if it's not recorded. But a friend who is really spoiled he displayed his Transformers. He didn't play with them.
Right.
Freak. And you're like, can we? No, you can't touch. And you're like,
I mean, don't know, commendable behaviour now, but as a kid, it's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, this is where I first saw Ultra Magnus. Like, what's this figure? It looks like, why is it Prime? Why is Prime white? I didn't see Ultra Magnus till seeing the movie. Right. But it had that. It had Devastator on display and a few others, and I'm like, maybe I was one of those kids that just kept them to himself and would play with them when no one else was around. But we went.
Counted toothpicks when they dropped on the floor.
Yeah. We went. I'd pop round to his house and I'd see Mask. Right. It wasn't really on the main channels that I can remember, because for me, through the week it was CITV, then you'd flip to the BBC, children's BBC stuff. You get the cartoons, then you get the boring stuff like Grange Hill and Blue Peter. When you got older, you appreciated them more, but and then you had the Jerry Anderson phase that came back in the early 90s, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, Stingray, yeah, I guess. Never really watched that. So yeah, and then as you got a bit older, you got the more edgier programs such as Games Master and Bad Influence. That's when I got real into the video game playing, when I got the Sega Mega Drive one year.
Right.
Stuff like that. And when you're talking about things you shouldn't watch as a kid, Predator, Conan, RoboCop.
Yeah.
RoboCop was a really strange one. I used to watch that before going to school.
Mm.
And I'd always get to the scene where Murphy's, getting blown to bits. And I'd just be sitting, eating my cereal,
Yeah.
And you think, you think, am I some kind of, psycho? When you look back, the answer to that is no, I'm not.
No.
But yeah, that was pretty much, it was, like every sort of kid that didn't have Sky, CBBC, ITV, and then whatever the shows were at the weekends, going live, live and kicking. And then whatever, ITV had, I know they had, like in the 90s, it was Scratchy and Co.
Right.
And I remember the alien, but I can't remember his name, the green alien with the stuff sticking out on.
Gilbert.
Gilbert, that's it. I remember them showing.
On Get Fresh. You're on Get Fresh, weren't you? Yeah.
With Gas Top.
Gas Top, yeah. Oh, yeah, he always had those, like, kind of, the spiky... but it's interesting you mentioned Visionaries. I do recall seeing Visionaries because they were a backup strip for a time in the Transformer comic.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I never used to read them. And I very rarely read the backup strips in comics. It was always just like Zoids, it was just the Zoids I'd read. Transformers, it was just the Transformers I'd read. And I was aware of Visionary toys, because of the adverts in the comics.
Yeah. But
it wasn't, at the time, I was never aware that there was a Visionaries cartoon. Never saw it. So, if you would say to me, did you say, no, never saw it. I couldn't even tell you what channel it was shown on. But in conversations that I've had with other collectors through this collector's archive thing that we're doing, I have at times got Visionaries mixed up with, the bloody name now. Is it Supernaturals?
Supernaturals, yeah.
Yeah. And, so now I think, who was it who corrected me or give me knowledge on that? They're probably going to be shouting if they are, typing furiously if in their online chat when this one goes out. But yeah, they told me that the differences between them. So yeah, so they completely passed me by. With that in mind, then, I know you did mention it, because we briefly interject because you talked about the Visionaries and that.
Mm-hmm.
What other toys and games and that are you playing with at that time? And are there any particular favourites that stand out?
Yeah, so toy wise, the real Ghostbusters was brilliant. Again, this is something I don't remember, but my parents do, and they like to drive this now and again. The Ecto 1 car, or the Ecto 1 car, obviously the Ecto 1, it had a feature where a claw came out the back of it and grabbed a ghost.
Right.
You used to get the little ghost. And apparently it wasn't, I had about 5 or 6 returned to Argos in Edinburgh because it wasn't working right.
Right.
Apparently. The other one was when toy shops wouldn't get away with this now, but when Hero Turtles were like, I guess the Americans, the Cabbage Patch Kids, there was literally people belting each other.
Right.
To get a Donatello, a Raphael.
Yeah.
But what sort of local shops were doing here, and this is the reason why I got so many, was they would only let you have one turtle if you bought one villain.
Right.
Independent toy shop, it's no longer here. But you wouldn't get away with that nowadays, surely.
No, I kind of like that. I do kind of like that because
great for me as a kid.
Yeah, but I like it as well. It'd be good if they did that now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to mention it. I know we're going to talk about it later, but it'd really screw up some of these people that go in on day one and just buy multiples of the thing.
Yes.
at day one.
would.
That gets my ass hair up.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that.
We'll come
But
back.
no, but I do like the idea of that, where you see, because then you could have your 4 turtles, and you could have 4 foot soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if you've just got 1 foot soldier, you know, poor bloke's not going to stand a chance, is he?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, those were sort of the real big toys in the Thundercats that I mentioned. You know, I'd dabble, I'd have the odd little mask, you know, vehicle. I had Ali Bombay and his bandit. Some of the names, some of the accents were worse.
Right, no, that's good stuff, John. So, what, like, did board games figure into any of this then? You know, because I mean, I know, like, kids of the 70s, 80s, board games were could be quite a big thing for us.
Yeah, not too much. I had a few games, not necessarily classed as board games, but I had Whack Attack.
All right, yeah.
Because who doesn't like Whack-A-Mole? My parents didn't like it at 8 in the morning when I was smacking them, though. That was a different story. Had Operation.
Right.
Because that's a rite of passage. Crocodile Dentist. That was more a 90s thing.
Right.
That was a trend. Pop-Up Pirate.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of like traditional board games, I suppose the closest, my dad had Game of Life, which I tried to figure out, but Trivial Pursuit, because everybody in the sort of 70s, 80s and 90s had Trivial Pursuit for those parties that you wanted to be sophisticated at.
Yeah. Your fondue and
yes, yeah.
keys in the bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, that's a different part.
But for me, the closest to a board game would have been the 90s revival of Mousetrap.
Right, yeah.
That you spent 20 minutes setting up.
Yeah.
But that was just not really a big sort of board game family, which was fine. You know,
that's fair enough. Yeah, something like that. So, out of all this stuff then that you're playing with as a kid, was there a particular favourite? And was there a standout favourite?
I guess I always did go back to Transformers. There was always a Transformer at Christmas time, even when the sort of big, you know, phase of it went through, because you might not be aware, you might be, I guess, but in the UK and I guess lots of Europe, we always had Transformers. It never disappeared like it did in the States. We would get, you know, the G1.5, as it's, you know, commonly known as, you know, the Leo Kaiser repaints as Rescue Force.
Right.
I think it was. We got all the G2 stuff. You know, we got the US got the Classics Pretenders, but you know, we got the reissues in the Classics line. You know, they did the G1 Minibot reissues, the G2 stuff, until it eventually went on to Beast Wars. But Transformers was always there in between the crazes of the day, whatever they were. You know, be it Power Master Optimus Prime. You know, it was always something that I had as a kid. Yeah. And amongst the Turtles, the Ghostbusters, the Visionaries, the Thundercats. It was always there.
So is the... Right, okay, well, I know you mentioned this, so, you know, we've come to that point now. Is there a standout memory then for, like, a Christmas birthday toy that you got?
Yeah, so I thought about this one. So I've got two. So I'll do the birthday one first. And I don't know why this sticks in my memory, but it always does. School day, so I was at school. Came home, and there was my present there, so I unwrapped it, and it was Headmaster Hearthead.
All right.
And I'm sure it was my dad that went, "Oh, so you're quite happy with that then? That's just what you've got for your birthday." And I was like, "Oh, that's fine. You know, he's a headmaster, he's a boss." You know, great. Went away, came back. "Oh, here's another present for you." Opened it up, and it was Power Master Optimus Prime.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I was absolutely over the moon.
Yeah.
With that figure.
Right.
You know, still a standout figure. I do have a copy that I got from Junkie Dave, who's into a bit of TLC, but I still have to pick up a box version of that, just because, you know, that was pretty much the first Optimus Prime figure I had. I missed out on the G1 version, apart from getting the body of the G1 figure it, car boot, stuff like that. The other memories really are Christmas memories. So I said two, a lie. I've got another two Christmas memories for you. So this sort of touches on to what I was mentioning before, with the toy shops being a bit naughty.
Right.
Christmas Day comes, Santa's been.
Yeah.
Santa's real.
It is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely.
Let's tell my son that. And
no, he's what's right. I mean,
tell my son.
He's in there. Yeah. I mean, I know that some parents have this arrangement with him where they get the stuff and wrap it and send it to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what they do. I mean, I suppose they're just trying to help out.
They are indeed. With our son, he gets one present from Santa and the rest from us.
Yeah.
Santa's got all these kids that he needs to look after.
Yep.
So
indeed.
But back in the early 90s, I was a bit more luckier because I went down there, came out the bedroom Christmas Day, and lo and behold, opened all these turtles.
Yeah.
I had all the main heroes. I had Splinter, I had Shredder, Bebop, Rocksteady, a Foot Soldier, and also had the blimp in the turtle wagon. And that was,
right.
That's
a good haul.
That was a good haul, and as I mentioned previously, we know why.
Yeah.
At least when it came to the figures. And, just getting that stuff, rare as, hen's teeth, because everybody was fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Which will fit in nicely with the sort of last craze before my childhood was crushed. But the other one, I was a bit older. I remember this Christmas, I was getting a colour portable telly.
Right.
And a Bush telly as well, state of the art from Argos, the top 14-inch, if I was lucky. I had a black and white telly before that. And
anyone's lucky if they get 14-inch.
It's very true. And games console-wise, I had an Atari 7800. That was a hand-me-down from my uncle.
Right.
And I really wanted a Sega Mega Drive. Because, again, my uncle was always the tech man in the family. He always got the latest consoles before he graduated to PCs and became boring. But, that's another story. So, I see this big box under the tree, and I'm like, we know it's not the telly, because if you remember, Bush tellies came in massive boxes for a little thing, and I'm like, that'll be Crocodile Dentist. Christmas Day comes, lo and behold, open it. Sega Mega Drive, 2 controllers, and Sonic the Hedgehog. I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Excellent.
And that's some of the choice memories that really stick in my head.
Yeah. No, those are good ones. Those are good ones. I mean, I miss that. I mean, you get it back somewhat vicariously when you have your own children.
You do.
But there's still that element of magic that you miss yourself from those days of getting up on that morning and just seeing those presents under the tree, and it's I mean, just briefly, I think one of my standout ones for Christmas would have been the year that I got an AT-AT, the Rebel Transport, Snow Speeder, and a Tauntaun.
Yeah.
One Christmas. I think that may have been Christmas 81, I think it would have been. And there's a photograph at my mum's where I'm on the living room floor, still in me like paisley pajamas, so like with these, playing with these toys. I mean that's a standout one. But no, back to you, sir. It's all about you. Let's move on to, where are we? Okay. So it's inevitable, we all grow up, sadly. Was there a cut-off point for you? Did a point come where you did move on from having toys? Because I know that there has been some people I've spoken to where it didn't stop for them. They just kind of like it just bled through and they just carried on in one way, shape or form. So if it did stop for you, is there anything that, have you any recollections for maybe a last toy that you got or last thing?
Yeah, so for me, it would be the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Right.
That was the last big childhood craze I had.
Yeah.
Again, much like the Turtles before it, they were, rare as rocking crap. To get, they just, because Bandai was just a little rinky-dink business in terms of compared to, Hasbro and Kenner at the time. They'd never expected, this really low budget show to take off as it did. But yeah, I couldn't. Toy wise, I remember W.H. Smith, or was it might still been John Menzies back then. They had the red and black Ranger and the blue Ranger in the window. These were little 3.57-inch figures.
Right.
And my dad, who was really a bit of a tight arse prior to Christmas and things, was like, "Oh, do you want one?" And lo and behold, I got the Red Ranger there. I didn't really get that many Power Rangers at Christmas time that year because I was getting older. I was in primary 7. I don't know what that equates to with English schools, but that was the last year of, before heading to secondary. So year 6, year 7, I don't know.
So about what? About maybe 11, 12 years old?
Yeah, so about that, yeah. Or I would have been going into primary 7 anyway at that point.
Right.
So my parents were like, "Oh, you're getting a bit old for toys." And no, I'm not. And I really wanted the Deluxe Megazord, and you can't see it because it's way up there. That's something I got the cheaper version after Christmas, that had fists that flew off like missiles. Back when toys actually, had missiles, and to hell with safety. I think you get these days.
There's a lot to be said for Darwinism.
Safety. The Hasbro tries, they're trying, but it's still not the same. But that was my sort of last childhood, craze, and it took me years to get a Deluxe Megazord and a Deluxe Dragon Zord, which was the bad Ranger turned good. That was his big robot, and conveniently for plot, they combined. So it was like big robots that combined, Transformers, Power Rangers. Why I fell in love with it in the first place. And that was shown on GMTV long after Timmy Mallet had hung up his boots, but Mr. Motivator was still terrorising us with his exercise screens. And then I'd already been playing, the Sega Mega Drive. That was really just a natural transition, from that to the Sega Saturn, because I wasn't the cool kid in the high school. I had to have the Sega Saturn. Everybody was PlayStation, but I buckled in the end and had to get a PlayStation because who could you swap games with? But I'd still sneak in the odd, figure here and there. I remember getting, which was the second season of Power Rangers. It the toys ended up in Pound Stretcher, which was the White Tiger Zord, which changed from a white tiger into a robot, very much like Razor Claw.
Right.
So the tiger chest at the front and everything, but apart from the odd thing I managed to slip in, that was me until I became an adult with my own income. Right.
No, the Power Rangers things just passed me by.
Yeah.
I mean, I think by that point, what year did they come out?
93, 94.
Yeah, so I was working by then, so it was. I recall seeing them on the shelves in the shops, and I recall, seeing adverts for them on the TV and things like that. But it just wasn't registering with me.
Yeah.
Much like Beast Wars didn't later on down the line for Transformers. The only thing that did at that point was Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Yeah, that was the only cartoon as an adult or young adult, shall I say, that I still watched. Because and I'll watch it even now because of the writing and the animation is just phenomenal. It's aged really well. Well, it hasn't aged. I think it's just as good now as what it was back then. But so when did you get back into it then? When did collecting become a thing for you again? Were there any particular circumstances that surrounded that, and was there a particular figure that that did it for you?
So I had a stop-start. I looked back at sort of collecting figures thanks to eBay. Really, and we still had a Woolworths here. That was where, when I was a kid, I got most of my toys. God, I miss Woolworths.
Yeah.
But I remember getting in Woolworths while scouring eBay. On eBay at the time, I managed to, because I was working reasonably full time, still in college. It sort of crosses up. It's getting a bit blurry, age.
Yeah.
But I remember picking up a G1 Menasor loose, which was about 30 quid. And then at that point, the Takara book figures were coming out, the G1.
Yeah.
Figures, so I got a Jazz Prowl tracks and a few other bits. And at the time, in the Woolworths here anyway, they had the RID 2000 figures out. So my parents were away on holiday with my brother. I picked up with Sideburn. Tracks. Then I bought a Sega Dreamcast when it was getting discounted, and I bought it on. And I still have the receipt, although it's probably faded now. But I bought it on September the 11th. I put it in, set it up. I was playing it, switched it off, and what was in the news. But
listen, I can't let that one pass. Then I've got to tell you this one. I've got to tell you this. I don't think I'm going to... Well, there's going to be a few bits I edit out of this, but I think I might just leave it because I don't think I can be asked. It'll be all over the place. Right. 9/11 or whatever it's called nowadays. I had the day off on that day, and obviously because of the time difference, I'd arranged to meet a friend for a pub lunch. Just to grab a sandwich and have a pint. We were having this, and his dad phoned him and said, "Oh, James, are you at home?" He says, "No," he says, "I'm just out with Ed." He says, "All right." He says, "I think you should get home and put the news on." He says, "Why? What's gone off?" He says, "No, just make your way home, put the news on." So we jumped in the cars and we headed round to his house, and we put the news on, and we're just like, just couldn't believe it. And we're watching it, we're going through cups of coffee and this lot, and back then I was still smoking back then as well. So, and I can't remember we know the exact point, but I can't remember how it came up. But I just remember saying to my friend James, I just said to him, I said, "Look," I says, "it's a testament to the builders and designers of that building that a plane can slam into it like that and it not collapse." And just as I said that, the fucker collapsed, didn't it? And my mate James, he just looked at me and he went, "Ed, don't say another word."
Oh no.
So right, so you've picked up your Dreamcast.
Yeah, so did that. But then I think because I live in a small town, you worry that people judge you, and they do. It's a small town. It's going to happen. I'm at the age now where it's just like, I'm too long in the tooth. You do you. If you're talking about me, you're not talking about somebody else. That's as one of my old co-workers used to say, and I thought that's quite a nice sentiment. Pick on me, whatever. I can deal with it. Someone else might not be able to, just for whatever reason. But I had that crisis of confidence and just sold a lot. And I even had a box G1 Magnus at this point as well, with the tech spec cut out, because kicking myself on that one. But it wasn't until I fully started getting into it. It was a mix between getting the Hasbro version of MPO1, and then I started seeing the classics figures coming out, the reimagining of the G1 figures. Optimus Prime that still have, the Mirage, Nerf Gun, Megatron. See, now I started getting interested. And a few months later, that's just where the collecting with Transformers started picking up. Started looking at websites such as the TF.net, which is really old. It's more a Facebook group now than an actual website, unfortunately. But I started doing like picture reviews with my digital 8 megapixel camera or whatever it was, on there. And then that gradually evolved, and it started YouTube, like 2011, maybe. Thinking that, this is easy. I just need to put my camera there and put my hands in front of it and start chatting, not realizing you need to edit. With good lighting. And up to present day, so I've never stopped. Thankfully, the family doesn't judge. They support it. My wife now, she puts up with it, but she doesn't judge. She's got her own collection. And stuff like that. She's very supportive. Of it. She's. I can't ask for anything better with that, because that's always the fear when you meet someone, isn't it? It's like the 40-year-old virgin scenario. But these days, thanks to like the MCU and that geek culture, as people want to, if they want to box it.
Okay, no, good stuff. So there's some extra questions that I've put in since I sent you that list. So these are probably some of these are going to make up some of those. So one of them is what do you enjoy most about collecting?
So I've touched upon this in a private group I'm part of. What the collection means to me. I was going to do a video about this, but if I'm ever having a bad sort of day, with it being mental health or just I just can't be arsed. I go to work, and I enjoy my job, and I'm not just saying that because this is going on YouTube. I genuinely do and enjoy my job. It's I work with some amazing people, but there's just some days where you're like, I'm phoning sick, but I've never been that guy who phones in sick. I always show up, unless I'm like on my arse. I can't get off the ball. Sorry to be graphic, but when I look at the collection behind me, well, not everyone, but the majority of these I've earned because I've got out of bed. I've went to work. I've dealt with some interesting characters, being a public-facing company, but equally, there's presents that I've had from people in the community, close friends from childhood, who have got me that stuff, and that just makes me smile. Just all the good vibes you have from it. That's what it means to me. There's memories in each and every one of these figures.
So, right, okay, I'm going to flip the coin on that one then. What do you dislike the most about collecting?
I don't want to say scalping, but I think that the biggest thing that I really hate about collecting is when it's an exclusive figure. Now, I've been very lucky to get a lot of the exclusives. If we look at the Earthrise figures, round about the pandemic time, it was Amazon exclusive. There was a Prowl and Ironhide 2-pack, the Seeker 2-packs, things like that. You had to get from the US. But the Earthrise thrust, having to import that from a seller. I know why they do it, why they have to do it. Whether it's to get extra money, budgetary reasons, they have to do it for most of those reasons. But off that, the exclusives come scalpers.
Wankers! Fucking embarrassing. Waste of our time. Fucking waste of our time.
And that's something you've touched upon, and that's the sort of the bugbear I hate. Some people in the community can be, whether it's their makeup or they're just grumpy.
Well, actually, John, that feeds into that's your answers there are blending in. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but your answer there is blending into the follow-up question on that, because I mean I'm still working and perfecting some of these questions that I asked, but the follow-on question to that, or I think I should really incorporate it to it, is what do you dislike most about collecting? But I was going to follow on that with what aspects of the collecting community do you like and dislike?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so maybe if you want to embellish on that, you know, or incorporate that into what you were saying.
No, definitely. So things that the community absolutely love it. Now, on the whole, the Transformers community has been, the most supportive community I've ever been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
In my earlier days, in the early days of message boards, I was part of some communities, and some of them were just right twats. But on the whole, the Transformers community is the most generous, the most supportive community you can have. Whether it's, they mean it, it doesn't matter. It's the fact they take the time to reply to your post. The fact that I get 20, 30, 40 people watching a video of mine, you're taking your time out to do that. I'm a guy, let's say it's nearly 40, I'm waffling about Transformers, and you've took your time to make that. That moment, whether you watch the whole video or not, doesn't matter.
No.
It really doesn't matter. You've took that time to support me, and I always appreciate that. I mod with Brad and Dave Ment, the Transformers YouTube community on Facebook, and it's a way of giving back. I help support that. I raise topics. You might notice my videos have been a lot about, what do you think about this? What I think about that? Because I want to engage with people in the community, and get their feedback, their thoughts on what's happening. And through that, I've made some really great friends within the Transformers community. Mentioning Ed there with the diaphone head. And the one time I get to see the majority of them is at TF Nation in Birmingham in Ago. And that's a shame, but because of where I am in the arse end of Scotland, and the majority of Transformers collectors, like yourself, are based in England. So just get in there, because it's not like they're just 5 minutes down the road. Like some of them are in Wales. I drive, but I don't drive long distances because I hate driving. Just confidence. I've had too many crashes.
Right.
Won't go into it. But that's what I like. Now, to be honest, there's very little I dislike about the community. You get the odd idiot. It's gonna happen. Heck knows there's been a few infamous ones who I'm not going to even give them a mention because they're not worth it.
No.
Who have graced the Transformers YouTube community as well as other Facebook groups. The one rule we have in the Transformers YouTube community is don't be a dick. It's not hard to follow. You can post whatever you like. It doesn't have to be Transformers, whatever you're passionate about, as long as it's legal. That's fine. But people still seem to struggle with that rule. You can have opinions, you can argue, as long as you're not calling each other foul names. We don't mind, as long as it doesn't get personal. When it comes to the people who pretend to be part of the community, who are just looking to get figures on the cheap and then flip them on eBay, which unfortunately we're seeing more and more, or people that buy up lots of things on Hasbro Pulse or In Demand or Comics and Cocktails. Even with them, more so the independent retailers are now placing limits. It's still frustrating for people that really want that figure. Like I've mentioned, I've been very lucky getting the figures that I've wanted in my collection. But I see that quite often, and it's one of the things that knocks the community a little bit. But that's not just tied to the Transformers community. I've seen it with G.I. Joe, Marvel Legends, Masters of the Universe, particularly with a few figures there. It's not, that's whatever fandom you're in, you're going to encounter that. But, more positives than negatives. I'd say 99 positive, 1% negative. You can go into the Twitter sphere of things and it gets a bit more murkier. That's changed a lot. That used to be a really upbringing place. There's a lot of people now that are just like knock, knock, knock. So I mostly just post at Twitter rather than engage, unfortunately, these days, which is a shame.
No, it sounds sensible. I agree with. I mean, I like to hear and I encourage different opinions on things because it's only by engaging and talking with people that have different opinions to you that you both grow and you both learn something from doing that. I don't like echo chambers. I don't like, just having my opinions reinforced. I want them challenged, and especially when it comes to opinions on figures and things like that. I have some really strong opinions on certain figures and certain characters, and I love engaging people that have an alternative point of view. And it's great, and it never gets personal. It never gets heated. Well, it can get heated, but in a respectful way. And I think when that happens on groups and within communities, that's great. Like you said, the things I don't like is, I know people blame the retailers by saying, "Oh, well, they should limit to so many per customer," but I think as collectors, we should take some responsibility as well. My most recent example is that I slept in, not literally, but I slept in with regards to pre-order for classified eels, which was a figure I had as a kid, and I wanted the classified version of it. And they'd sold out on Hasbro Pulse. There were, apparently, I think they were supposed to be, in the States, I think they're initially an Amazon exclusive, but over here they're doing them on Hasbro Pulse. Now, I'm sure that eventually they will get stock in, they'll restock them and they'll make them available again. But I just dislike this thing because the day that they sold out, I was seeing on eBay and in some groups where people were offering them for when they came out, but they were doubling the money on them. And that just winds me up, It's a case of, there's been, I get that some people like to army build, but for me, it depends how they do it. Now, excuse me, I'll give you an example. A personal example for me is I love stormtroopers. I'm talking about the Star Wars ones. I'm not talking about the Wehrmacht. And so it's the kind of figure that you can't just have one. The stormtroopers look better in a group. Now, when the Black Series did the repackaged and they released the stormtroopers, like the Remnant Stormtrooper and then the Stormtrooper from the Mandalorian, with the shiny armor. When they first came out, I specifically just bought one because my ethos about that is, I want more, but I'll wait until everybody's wet the beak. I'll let everyone else have a chance to get the figure, and then when they release another wave, then I'll pick up another couple, and I try to do it that way. Some people may call me naive for being like that, but it's just that that's my generous nature. That's just in me that I want everyone to share in it and not be left out, kind of thing. So when you see people going in, and it's always these. No, actually, I'm trying to be nice. But there's a certain stereotypical image of a particular collector that goes in with a big sweaty ham-fisted and just gabs a big handful, and it's like, no, I want these are mine, I'm having these, you're not having them, kind of thing. And it's that I really gets my ass hair up, does that. It's like, you can just go and fornicate off that way, kind of thing. Right, okay, so we'll get cracked back in because we're near the end now anyway. So we've got it off his chest what we like and we don't like about the community. With collectors in mind, what if you could go back, what advice would you give to your younger self, when you were just starting back out collecting again?
Well, that's a good one. I think what I'd give myself in terms of advice is, just don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Collect the figures you want, but don't go overboard. Don't be buying everything in sight. Don't get to the point where I did and was going into overdraft every month. Just be selectful, but collect what you want. You don't need to buy, everything in sight.
Yeah.
So don't worry, what other people think. Stuff them.
Right.
You will meet like-minded people eventually. It's going to take a while, but I promise you will.
Yeah.
And do not buy everything in sight.
Right. Now, if it's going to be any different, what advice would you give to a collector that's just starting out now?
So, to be honest, very similar. The first, apart from don't overpay for a figure. Anything that's been out in the past, well, there's always got to be exceptions, right? But generally, anything that's been out in the past sort of 4 or 5 years, they shouldn't be going for ridiculous money.
No.
So, if you're looking for the modern stuff, don't overpay for anything really that's been out in the past 5, even 10 years. You will, if you're patient enough, you will get them at a reasonable price. Now, things like the Dinobots, Studio Series ones, you're going to have to pay for them. I mentioned this in a video that'll be out by now that I've done. But any character that has cross-generational appeal, such as the Dinobots, if you want them, you pre-order them. Because they will sell out because of the Dinobots. Yeah. Bumblebee doesn't sell that well. Be honest with yourself, folks. It really doesn't. Michael Bay's ruined that. They will always sell, but don't overpay. Look at eBay sold prices. Never go for buy it now prices. Do ask people in the community what their opinion is on something. You don't have to follow the opinion. No. You don't have to follow my opinion on X Transbots Magnus or even Minimus Ambus, but ask, engage. Do chat to us. We don't bite. We might know someone who's selling a figure at a reasonable price that you might want. It's making those connections. Don't be a stranger in the community, and don't let anyone tell you what to collect. You do you. It could be rescue bots. That's your thing. That's your thing. It could be those Transformer Red figures. That's fine. You might get a dodgy look from me, but no, honestly, anybody coming into the community, it's very welcoming. Nobody will judge you, and if they do judge you, you just tell them F off. They'll run away scared. But that's my words of wisdom.
No, it's good advice. Good advice. Right, John. Well, we're almost at the end now, so it's a case of I'm going to hand it over to you. It's just a recap, just let people know who you are and where they can find you on the old socials. All
right, so I go by the name BordersDude, but my real name's John. Jamie let out that secret on the Transformers the Show episode. And it's been well known. If you know me on Facebook, I don't call myself BordersDude on Facebook, for God's sake. So on Facebook, socially wise, you can mostly find me in the Facebook page of the Transformers YouTube community, or the TFYTC for short. If you're just starting out in the community, or you have a YouTube channel and you'd like to share, your videos, that's one of the starting points to do it. We do work with sister sites such as Transformers the Show and the TFUK Facebook group as well. We're all very much intertwined when it comes to these things. We all share the same members, and we're all very, very much like-minded. I do have a Twitter under BordersDude, but I don't really go on it. The most active place I am right now is Instagram, using that handle BordersDude again, where I'm taking pictures of various Transformers, some action figures. slowly getting better at that. And of course, here on YouTube. Again, just search the name BordersDude, where I'm trying slowly to get back into doing videos and making discussions for you guys, and thinking how I'm going to do reviews again, because it's been so long since I've done a review.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, I'll. There'll be links. I'll put links up and things like that when this one comes out. So, right. Well, all that's left to say is now, John, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to come and have a chat with us, and it's been great. And hopefully we'll chat again to you real soon.
Oh, honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. Sorry it took so long.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know,
when anyone asks me on the show,
it's what? Sorry.
When anyone asks me on the show, it's always an honour just to sit and chat. That people recognise just a middle-aged man talking about toys. So thank you.
No, it's great. Well, listen, you take care, and like I say, we'll talk again soon. All the best,
Definitely.
John. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Hello there, Bob Fleming here, and today we'll be looking at fishing tackle. Excuse me. Now, where would your fly fisherman be, excuse me, without his waders? Now, the type of wader I prefer is not the, excuse me, not the smaller type, which is really just a Wellington, or even a society wader. But for most general fishing, if I've got to go wading in a oh, would you excuse me? Keep filming, I'll do it.
Human interface disengaged. Thank you for accessing the collector's archive. To enable return access, please select the like, subscribe, and notification icons. Transmission terminated. Goodbye.